Welcome back, everyone, to the Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization Show, the home of Googlization Nation, where we talk with HR and business thought leaders about the crazy shift going on all around us and explore the disruptive convergence of technology, business, and people. Here are your hosts, Ira Wolf and Jason Cochran.
Hey, welcome back, Googlization Nation. We got a special edition today of the Geeks Geezers and Googlization Show, a show from the People Forward Network. My name is Ira Wolf.
And I'm Jason Cochran. Thank you for being here, and welcome to all of our first-time listeners. If you think Geeks Geezers Googlization is just another live stream and podcast, think again. We're the heart and soul of crucial conversations focused on helping you reimagine your tomorrow and exploring the convergence of technology, people, and work.
Googlization Nation, you're in for a real treat today. Just a few weeks ago, I was introduced to a soon-to-be-released workplace report called the Everywhere Workplace. The timing couldn't be better, as the worst of the pandemic finally seems to be falling behind us. I doubt anyone listening today will be surprised to learn that the long-anticipated return to work, return to normal, has been anything but predictable, adequate, or normal. In fact, for anyone who listens to me or follows me, you've probably heard me refer to our future as never normal. It's a term I coined during the pandemic in deference to the new normal, the next normal, future next, is I don't think that our future is going to ever be what we considered normal in the past. And it seems to be resonating. Just yesterday, I got 4 alerts, Google alerts, that people are talking about never normal. If you agree and you're watching on LinkedIn or YouTube, please give us a like. Let us know your comments. Do you agree that never normal is where our future will be? But the return to work, which is what we're going to be talking about today, seems to fit this never normal theme. It makes today's conversation exciting, fascinating, and for some of you, probably pretty terrifying, especially if you're an employer. So, Jason, if it's okay with you, I think we're going to dispense with our usual opening Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization banter, and we're going to jump into our interview with our guests, Jeff Abbott, CEO of Ivanti, and David Shepard, who's the Global VP. Let me see if I can pull these together here and bring them back in. And welcome, gentlemen. Welcome, Jeff and David.
Thanks, Ira. Thanks, Jason. Great to be here.
Hi, both.
Jason.
Welcome. Yeah, let's dive in. And Jeff, let's start with you first. Can you tell our listeners what Ivanti does, and then a little bit about you and who you are?
Sure. Thanks, Jason. I'm the CEO of Ivanti as of October 2021. And Ivanti as a company, we're squarely in the IT solution space. So any company that has an IT department, we provide software to enable that department to do its job. We kind of 3 pillars: the security of the network and employees coming on and off the network. 2, device management, or what we call endpoint management, all the devices that employees bring to the table, whether it's a mobile device or a laptop or an iPad, whatever it might be, we provide the endpoint management. And then 3, service management. So the way to think of it is we provide solutions to manage all the devices, the onboarding and offboarding those devices onto the network, and the service and security of all those devices. And as you might expect on today's topic, Jason, with the Everywhere Workplace, in the last 2 years, we've been busy. Right, a lot of companies taking all their employees, out into the Everywhere Workplace and having to manage remotely. Our solutions have become kind of at the forefront of what companies need to keep their devices and their people secure.
Hey, David, you and I met just about 2 weeks ago. I was in New York, you were in the UK. We were doing the launch of this report. And this report seems to scream disruption in a lot of ways. When we talk about what organizations are facing, what work's going to look like, what jobs are going to look like. And the report sort of I won't say an understatement. I think how people are addressing this is an understatement. Can you give us a little background on the Everywhere Workplace Report and what you found as the most significant finding?
Yeah, it's a couple of things. Look, first of all, it's a great time to be doing this, right? We're coming off the back of a seismic shift in how we worked. I don't think if we asked any of us 2 years ago, we'd think we'd be in this position now. So it's a great time to go out. We surveyed approximately 6,000 people, both in the workforce, but also as IT professionals, just to get a view of what they had been doing, and also what the everywhere workplace actually means to them. And I mean, some of the stats that came back were very surprising. For example, 71% indicated that they would rather work from anywhere than potentially take a promotion. Actually, within that as well, maybe more eye-opening, 64% said they would potentially be prepared to take a pay cut to actually give themselves flexibility and the ability to work from everywhere as well. And then on the flip of that, and I think this echoes some of the reverse of those stats, only 13% of those canvassed said that they would actually want to go back to work into an office full time. And then bringing it together, really, 44% talked about the desire for hybrid, flexible working. And I think that, as eye-opening as the bigger stats are, that's also an important stat as well, because that's a big, portion of the survey population as well.
And Jeff, when you saw the results of the report coming in, what were some of your first thoughts that came to mind?
Yeah, Jason, I think first of all, this is not our fathers and mothers and grandparents' workforce anymore, right? 9 to 5 in the office is over. If you kind of take the summary of the data David shared, 80% of the workforce is saying no. I consider this more important than promotion, more important than pay raise. And the employee, the workforce in general is saying, I get more value out of being remote, and therefore I can afford to take the pay hit or pass up the promotion. And interestingly, if you talk to some of the surveyees, they say, listen, I can take a 20-minute break and run to the market, or get the dry cleaning, or take care of a pet. That's so much more valuable to me than being pulled back into the office. And if you look at some of the larger, more recognized companies in the world, last summer, when we thought we were on the downslide of the pandemic, they were requiring employees to come back, and they lost a lot of talent in doing so. People voted with their feet and left. So I think that the most important conclusion here is we're in a new era of workforce, and it is not going back to what it's been for the past 100 years.
Oh, Ira, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Let me interject something there, Jeff, because, and this, maybe I should direct this to David, because this study came from the UK. There was a study that was just released. I saw it on LinkedIn through the thread last week. And they said that 66% of managers, and there was, I think, 400 or so that were surveyed in the UK, said that they believe that remote work initiatives would be pulled back. What would be your response to them based on what you found in the Everywhere Workplace study?
Yeah, interesting that. I mean, remote work anywhere, the survey clearly shows it's here to stay. I mean, if you delve into the report, 24% of people actually said that they would consider working elsewhere if remote was pulled. So, and it'll probably be a handy time for me to pass over to Jeff in a minute. The remote initiatives should be growing and not decreasing at this point. That again, quarter of all those responded said, look, if I'm told where I'm going to work from, I'm going to go elsewhere. So again, yeah, I'd like to see those stats in more detail, but surprising, right? At the same time,
I'd say, Ira, that those managers are deluding themselves. If they believe that they're going to be able to control their workforce, the data clearly says they're not. And look, you combine the conclusions of this study with the dynamics of what we're calling in the US anyway, the Great Resignation, right? Employees are voting with their feet. They're deciding what's best for them. I kind of look at this as, if you all recall the shift in the 90s and the early 2000s from a consumer standpoint, consumers took over control of their choice, right? Size, color, style became something that they demanded they get from their retailers, however they liked it. Not what the retailers would provide, but what they wanted. Consumers kind of took the power. Same thing's happening in the workforce. The individual worker is saying, I'm going to decide where and how I work. And in fact, some of the conclusions from the studies show that this next generation of workforce is even basing their decisions on their career based on the everywhere workplace policy of the potential employers. So before they even accept the role, they want to know, is it my choice? Can I work from home? Can I come into the office sometimes? Can I hotel, so to speak, here and there? And there's even this notion of digital nomads. Those that can do their work from a laptop or a device are saying, well, I'm going to live 6 months here and then maybe a year here and so on. So they want literally no anchors. And I think employers who think that they're going to pull back on the remote workforce are going to find themselves in empty conference rooms.
Yeah, Jeff, when I was going through the report, the one word that just kept ringing in my head was freedom. And that's what I shared with Ira was this is people about wanting to take control over their lives. That aspect that used to be the hamster wheel of the 9 to 5 that you referenced, they got a taste of some freedom that they have. And to now expect them to put that back in the box and, hey, why don't you come back in and do things the way they were? That just goes against human nature. In psychology, we call it psychological reactance, which is people don't like being told what to do. And now that they got that taste of freedom, like you alluded to, they'll walk and vote with their feet and find some place that will continue to give them that taste of freedom that they're looking for.
I think that's exactly right. And if you look historically, on average, it was only 5% of the total workforce pre-pandemic that was considered fully remote. Now we're looking at 80% plus. It's just a gigantic shift. And, Ira, Jason, what's important to David and I is that our company can enable this for organizations. We enable the everywhere workplace. It's what our solutions do. So we're kind of anxious to get the word out on this because companies need to start preparing right now to make sure that they're keeping their networks secure, their devices secure, and their employees are able to, onboard and offboard new devices all the time, however, they want, with freedom and with kind of liquidity on the network and so on. But for IT leaders that haven't yet thought about this, one of the biggest concerns is cybersecurity, right? And if you're kind of turning a blind eye to enabling the everywhere workplace and not thinking about the security implications, you're in a bad place. This has to be at the forefront of how you're preparing for this new workplace reality.
Can you either both of you, I'd like to hear from, dig into that just a little bit more, because I just posted this on LinkedIn not too long ago. I was geeking out about this report. I mean, there was just so much in there. But the part that I didn't consider before, and part of that is because I didn't hear anybody else talking about it, because it's like HR, management, and then IT. It's IT, come and fix our computers, do this thing. Yep. The consequences of bringing people back to work in hybrid, and maybe this is the reason people are saying everybody comes back full time, which isn't just going to work because the labor market's just not going to put up with that. But with everybody coming back in, as everybody passes through that front door, I'm carrying my smartphone, I'm carrying my tablet, I'm carrying my laptop. My kids were using it. I just was down the coffee shop. I was on vacation. Who knows, whether we had VPNs or if it was protected. And we're walking through that door and plugging into the corporate network. Talk about that a little bit, because again, it seems that people are just, that's not even consideration of when we bring people back to work, what do we need to do differently?
Yeah, no question. I'll make a few comments and I'll ask David to comment as well. Look, it is often overwhelming for companies when they realize the digital on and off of their network that's occurring and the number of devices. And then take into account for a second some industries where IoT, Internet of Things enabled devices are also now on their networks. In fact, funny story, we have a customer that we helped enable endpoint management, which does all this discovery and risk assessment and management of the devices on their network. And they called after being implemented for a month or two and said, we have 60 devices. We have no idea what they are. Now, this happened to be a company that managed ships. And apparently in the galley of their ships, the chefs had bought IoT enabled toasters, right? So that they could turn them on and warm them up before they got into the galley. 60 toasters that are on their network. Now you take that as an example, okay, low risk. It was funny for a second and then it wasn't funny. right? Because those are devices that could potentially be penetrated. If they have an IP address and they're on the network, they're an access point. So to your point, Ira, it is fascinating and daunting when you take into account the amount of edge computing that goes on these days. Edge meaning not central computing power to a corporation, but all the devices around the network. And it becomes extremely complex. David?
Yeah, so look, visibility key. And from the employee side, experience, whether you're in an office or out of the office, should be identical. IT, yeah, it can drive us crazy because we need to be able to facilitate that. The one piece that comes with visibility as well that really helps then is context. Understanding where the device is, what the device has been used for, what the device has interacted with. And when I say device, I also mean the user as well. So Ira, your example of, it might have been passed through the family, hopefully not, because it is a corporate device at the end of the day, but just understanding that context, and that allows us also to tailor the experience as well. Have I been on a public Wi-Fi network? Have I been on private networks? I've been on the home network, and just that visibility, that context starts to allow businesses to make smart decisions, to manage the user the same as if they're in or out of the network. It shouldn't be in or out of the network. Bad example, it should be the network, and that network is facilitating work wherever you are.
Hey, I just want to remind everybody, you're listening to a special episode of Geeks Geezers Googlization. We're here with the CEO of Ivanti, Jeff Abbott, and the Global VP, David Shepard. We're talking about the new workplace report, the new Everywhere Workplace Report. In fact, let me just pull up the banner here, show you how to get a hold of that. There it goes. So you can download that for free, get a lot more of the stats that we're talking about today. You brought up about hopefully people are walking into the work, are not allowing their families to use their company owned devices. Okay, maybe. But a lot of the challenges last year were when everybody was sent home, people were left to their own devices. They had to upgrade. They have their own PC. They may not have, maybe they have a secure network. Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't even know how to do it. They have all their mobile devices. It's 2 years. So people have upgraded phones. And not every company provided company assets,
right,
to them. So they may be bringing their own assets back to work. And, even if they have a PC or a laptop or even a tablet, it may not be a company owned smartphone,
no question. Yeah.
Especially for frontline workers.
Yeah. And look, that puts the onus on the IT department and the CIO's staff to assess the risk, right? And to understand what's required, whether it's two-step authentication, zero trust access, VPN, all of the tools that, the conventional tools and contemporary tools that put you in the best place to keep your network safe and your devices secure. One of the tools we recently acquired as a company is called RiskSense. And this is a tool that we essentially, for newer customers, it's the first thing we push them towards. RiskSense is a tool that essentially goes onto the network and kind of, it crawls around and looks for your most vulnerable points, whether it's remote digital computing points, the IoT devices, the central network, whatever it may be. RiskSense comes back with a report and shows you kind of red, yellow, green where you have challenges or where you're unprotected, right? And then the next step of the process is to patch, which is essentially the remediation. Patching means you are getting all of those devices up to a minimum security standard that the company sets. You've been asked to reboot your device or your laptop and so on. That's a patching process where it's making sure all of your security standards are up to snuff. So you're right, Ira. With the last 2 years and the complexity of getting everybody back in a productive stance, incredible amount of new devices and sort of previously dangerously low security, low access devices came onto the network and had to be assessed up to corporate standards. And that's not going to change. In fact, that's going to accelerate with the Everywhere Workplace. More and more people are going to expect a BYOD situation, bring your own device to work, which is fine and can be very effective. It allows for a lot of autonomy of your workforce, but it has to be secure. And that's what we work on with our customers.
It sounds like I need Ivanti to come into my house. About every, all day long, I'm seeing devices joining my network. Anytime the kids or grandkids or neighbors or, anybody comes in, everybody seems to be joining all the time. I don't know if you have a consumer edition of that or you're planning that, but that might be a good thing.
Something to think about for sure. I'll say this though, there are stories out there of cyber terror and criminals now penetrating households. And putting ransoms on households versus businesses. Now, the ransoms are far smaller amounts, but I am hearing and reading about that, the cyber bad actors are spreading, right, quickly. And now getting, to your point, into our home networks and deciding, well, I can just shut everything down and get a $5,000 check before I turn them loose. Yeah. It's not uncommon to hear about that these days.
We warned everybody. This will be fascinating and terrifying. We are live, and we do have a comment. I'm going to post it up here from Colleen. Good to see you, Colleen. Colleen's worked with workforce development for years, and she asks, is this a revolution since employees have gotten rid of unions? Provide 401ks instead of pensions, not providing health insurance, blah, blah, blah. Is this freedom? It is freedom, but is it also a wake-up call to the owners that the masses can find ways to get what they want? I think that pretty much sums it up.
I think Colleen has a point. I think she does. And this was what I meant by the power shifting, right? And look, it's the combination of the two things that are occurring, the everywhere workplace and the great resignation. People are saying, hey, I'm going to take a hard look around. The study showed, as you know, Ira, that 24% of the respondents had changed jobs in the last 12 months, and another 27% were considering it. So half the workforce has either changed or is considering it. And to Colleen's point, they know that they can, approach potential employers with a whole different, call it leverage, right? Ability to define kind of how they want to work and where they want to work, even kind of the style of devices and digital experience they expect. We're now having to engineer into our platform what we call the digital experience platform. This means that we have tools that will now measure the satisfaction of individual employees on the network, right? Is it a good experience? Do I get good service levels? Do I like the tools and the software I'm able to use to do my job? And then it can roll that data up to a department level and a company level. Here's the point. The workforce is saying, I'm going to start measuring my opportunities based on the digital experience as much as the paycheck, the work from home policy. All of this is now an indication of what Colleen is saying. There's a general power shift in the workforce. And I'm just, all those who are in, boss positions out there, if you ignore this, you're going to be in a bad place. This is something we all have to be conscious of as things evolve and continue.
Sorry, go ahead, David.
All I was just going to add was, look, productivity's up. That's not being discussed. Employee productivity is up. So businesses are benefiting from it as well. So yes, the employees have more power to maybe dictate where they want to work from, but as an employer, you're getting more productivity out of a happy employee.
And Jeff, you mentioned the word experience there, and it makes me think about employee experience. So much of what we're talking about is about the employee experience. Can you tell us, were there some things that came out of your report here about the role and importance of employee experience in the everywhere workplace that either confirmed things you already thought or maybe were a surprise to you?
Yeah, well, look, again, to the point about the experience platform, the reason you have to start measuring it is because employees are demanding it. They're more or less saying, listen, I need to have an understanding of how easy and seamless and user-friendly is it to get on and off the network, to bring new devices on and off the network, to do my work when I'm on the network. And my expectation of my employer is that they care about my experience, that it shouldn't be too arduous. It should be pleasurable, right? Now, when was, you think about the four of us early in our careers, do we remember a time when our boss or our management asked us, hey, are you having a good digital experience today? No, right? Didn't happen. It's a new era. And the reason, we're actually, Jason, we're providing benchmarking data in this platform as well, more or less So an IT leader can see, how does our digital experience score across all of our employees compared to peers in my industry, right? So that you can brag into the marketplace, we're rated as an A+ player from a digital experience standpoint. Again, you and I would be cross-eyed looking at that. This next workforce is like, nice. Not only do they have a great flexible, work from everywhere policy, but the digital experience rating is really high, right? So that's where it's coming into play, is the tool sets, the experience, all of it is part of the decision criteria of this next generation workforce.
That brings up such an important point for anybody who's read anything about me, follows me on LinkedIn, heard me speak, read my book. I've talked about, I primarily was focused on the candidate experience, and there was an acronym, and I give credit to Debbie Levitt, who's a UX CX. She hates that term, but kind of the expert. And she came up with this acronym of FCDD, and for short, it's effed up. The candidate experience, employee experience, and it stands for frustrating, confusing, disappointing, or distracting. Those are the 4 elements. And ultimately, what I hear you saying is that we employers now need to remove frustration, confusion, disappointment, and distraction. Is there anything, when I share that with you, and I think that may be the first time you've heard that, is there anything that comes to mind of, if here's the first thing that a company can do to remove one of those 4 elements: frustration, confusion, disappointment, or distraction?
David?
That's a great question. I think it's remove complexity is the first way of solving frustration, right? Take complexity out. We've talked about one network connecting from anywhere. If as an organization we can provide a level of service to our employees that is simple and effective, then we remove frustration straight away. And then providing flexibility into a role, time saving on commuting, for example, take that back. So an employee can work from anywhere. They immediately save time. They get a better work-life balance. Actually, they're saving money, right? All those little factors there remove. I can't remember the complete acronym there, Ira, but some of the F's immediately get removed from that point. But it does come back to take out complexity, and we take out frustration.
And I'd say, one of the first things to do, Ira, is, again, measure. Just start measuring where you stand on that very bad scale you described, right? The first step in addressing any issue is measuring how bad it is, right? And where you go from there, to David's point.
Well, and I think that the jury's in, because people are not applying to companies. And again, when we focus on the candidate experience, and this has to do with the digital experience, not necessarily, well, it does have to do with what you do, because people are applying online. The average is that 50% of candidates who start an application don't complete it because it's too complicated, it's too frustrating, or they don't apply because it takes too long, and the disappointment to get a response from the company. Sometimes it just goes into cyberspace, to the Ethernet. And you've addressed that. You've addressed that of part of this solution, part of this employee experience is, even that if I'm sitting at my desk and I have a problem, or I have a question, or even how many vacation days do I have? How quick of a response can I get?
Yeah, no question. And that's a huge part of it. One of the things we're doing as a company is trying to anticipate the needs of newly onboarded employees. We just did 4 big acquisitions last year. Plus, we've had a fair amount of turnover, like every company in this everywhere workplace, and the Great Resignation. So we've been rethinking every new employee's experience coming into the company. We actually created inside of our intranet the Ivanti Everywhere Workplace homepage. And it essentially, to your point, Ira, tries to think what are going to be the most typical questions people want or they have, whether it's benefit related, work related, or even kind of what the company's mission and core values are, right? A lot of times, and that's an interesting aspect of the study too. You take the digital experience and everything we're doing to prepare and enable the everywhere workplace. The other thing the respondents are saying is, I want to know that we're connected to something that's positive in the world. the kind of the mission and core values of the company need to align as well. So to your point, we're trying to make it a very seamless experience and kind of self-serving as much as possible. Find what you're looking for pages on our own intranets, or our own employees can very quickly have a source where they can find what they want to know, right? And that takes curation. You have to have people that are watching it all the time and updating it. The minute it's stale and out of date, they won't go back, right? So enabling the Everywhere Workplace is just as much about thinking of the employee experience, kind of like what Disney does with their theme parks. They engineer the experience. We have to do the same thing from a conventional company perspective and a digital perspective.
We actually have another comment, and this tees it up, and we sort of talked about this, but maybe we need to reinforce this from Keenan. Hey, thanks, Keenan, for joining us and asking the question. He talked about a lot of companies have accepted hybrid work. I mean, they've realized that's gonna be part of that. People are going to work 2 days in the office or 3 days in the office, 2 days from home, back and forth. Is this something you guys have taken into consideration?
Yeah, no question. And in fact, Keenan, I can identify with your point. We as a company in the beginning of the pandemic, every 2 or 3 months, we'd say, okay, here's the plan. We're going to allow for half the office to come in on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and the other half to come in on Mondays and Wednesdays, and Fridays is a flex day. And 3 months later, we'd say, and oh, by the way, we're going to put in a hoteling system where you log in and you pick the office or the workspace you want, and we'll make sure it's ready when you get there. And then after a year and a half, when this, kind of the conclusions of this study became firm, which is you got to give the employees full freedom of choice. You don't have to structure policies to try and escort the herd one direction or another. Just allow for them to choose. To Keenan's point, though, it still comes with a burden on the leadership of the company to figure out how do we enable for the departments that do want to have people come in a couple of days a week, because collaboration, we all know, is important in some departments. Our own engineering department, the folks that actually write and code the software, they need to interact. They need to get in conference rooms here and there. So the local offices are making decisions wherever they are in the world on how that's going to work and enabling it. But yes, we are engineering into our software the flexibility to allow for that very, hybrid work environment. And you have to, right? Luckily for us, a lot of that was already engineered into the product, so it has the flexibility to do that. But more and more, it's going to be, I think, for companies, a department by department, office by office decision that they have to enable.
Yeah, I think just on that, we talk about it in the report. It's not one size fits all anymore, and even the 2 days here, 3 days here, it's what the employee choosing experience, and how we as an employer try and facilitate that experience with understanding the right context of the employee.
Hey, David, we said that we were in sync after our kind of couple hours together a couple of weeks ago, and you just read my mind. You just pulled the question. The one size fits all. There was a significant difference with gender, men and women, and also a difference in outlook of the future of work from millennials and Gen Z versus boomers and Gen X. Can you address the differences that you found?
To me, yeah. So there were some on the gender divide. There were some interesting statistics that came through. So more women, more people that recognize themselves as female did report more negative effects of working. Let's say we're working remotely all the time. And it talks about it in the report, but 3 times from the female side, 3 times a female is 3 times more likely to be the primary childcare giver at home, which does stimulate sometimes the second shift syndrome when children come in from school or there's homeschooling. There is extra functions to be done at home, and so yes, sometimes you do need to divide between, especially working from home and also then providing childcare and family care. So that can create negativity. However, we do read in the report as well that, and it is called out on the female side that there are some huge benefits with the flexibility of work schedules, the ability then to approach childcare in a different way. Interestingly, men saw it slightly different, reporting negative effects that around maybe promotion or career development, time face-to-face with their bosses. was called out. So yes, we've talked about a lot of positives, but there's definitely a call out in the report around, I think Jeff just mentioned it a minute ago, lack of interaction with colleagues or bosses or management in a face-to-face way is still something that people consider important.
Jeff, any additional comments on that or anything?
Yeah, no, I echo what David said. I think the study, during the heat of the pandemic over the past 2 years, women definitely were, in a not as advantageous a place, right? Because, in fact, I know a lot of working women and mothers who also began homeschooling at that point, right? Because schools weren't open. Now, the data is conclusive, though, since schools have reopened, or for the most part reopened, women are thrilled with the thought of the everywhere workplace, right? Because now kids are back at school, childcare is covered, and I have all this flexibility to get everything else done that's on my shoulders as a working mom. So I think again, there is a gender divide in terms of the everywhere workplace experience, but all agree that they'd rather have the flexibility and decide for themselves.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point, and I'm glad you brought that up, because although 70% of the women, came out in the report, had a negative experience with remote work, the majority were still in favor of it. They still wanted to move toward that. They just wanted a better experience, which fits back into our conversation that we had before. In the report, I think it was sort of a summary. I don't know if it was intended as that, is you came up with a couple different archetypes, and it fits into that 4 different personas that people will fit in. And you talked before about, and I thought this was fascinating, and again, it predominates with the millennials and maybe even more so with Gen Z, is that they want to work from anywhere. I mean, this isn't this is literally the everywhere workplace.
Yeah.
They want to work from anywhere.
Right. Yeah, that digital nomad, right? Which I think has just become a reality here during the pandemic. When people look, I think the world was very concerned at this time 2 years ago, if, to David's point a little while ago, productivity would be maintained if the workforce could continue to get everything done. Now, if you're a heavy manufacturer, you have to have people, in the factory building and so on. But largely for the professional services, part of the economy, we proved it. The world proved it. Yes, we could maintain productivity. In fact, to David's point, increase productivity with the flexibility. So it's kind of, all right, check that box. Well, then in that case, Mr. or Mrs. Employer, I don't necessarily want to anchor myself to a city or a location. I'm going to be more transient than that. But I commit to you, I will get my work done. So therefore, I'm going to maybe live in Vienna for 6 months, and then maybe I'm going to move to Texas for a year. And this next generation workforce is thinking about it very differently. It's funny. I have 2 kids in college right now, and my son says, "Dad, with all due respect, I don't want to do what you do. I don't want to, be on the laptop for 6-7 hours a day. Or if I'm going to do that in my career, Dad, I'd like to at least see the world or see different parts of the world and move around." And that's this digital nomad concept. And I'm like, hey, man, go for it. I think that's incredible opportunity. And to Colleen's point a while ago about the deunionization, well, there's a kind of a subtle reunionization of this next workforce and the way they think, right? And it's all about flexibility, their own desires to define how they, are culturally going to interact with the world and the workforce, and just, take advantage of the world being a global economy and being able to, interact with just about any company from a productivity perspective from anywhere on the planet. It's a fascinating time for this next workforce.
And Jeff, it makes me think also of Web3. It makes me think of blockchain technology. It makes me think of decentralized autonomous organizations, or DAOs, as many people might read about. And that those were things probably 6 months to a year ago, most of us weren't thinking about. But now, as we're hearing more about crypto being one of the verticals where this is playing out in decentralized finance first, I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but if you were to pull out your crystal balls, Jeff, you and David, how do you see that aspect playing into this everywhere workplace over the next few years?
Yeah, I think it's fascinating to consider, Jason. I really do. And I'll ask David to comment as well. Look, I think I look at it with a very optimistic eye. I do. I think we're going to see skills get developed in a very good way across industries with these autonomous organizations, because the skill set is largely the same across various industries. So we're all going to enjoy kind of this post collegiate education system of improving skills with these autonomous organizations, and therefore the workforce is going to be generally better and better enabled for whatever job. So one thing we have to get used to as employers, and anybody who's out there right now doing any hiring, if they look at a resume and they see more than a 2 or 3 year stint, that's a veteran, right? Somebody, my father was 40 years with General Motors, right? And he couldn't believe it when I left my job after 5 years early in my career for something better, right? Well, now, 5 years, are you kidding me? That's a lifetime, right? So this workforce is saying, look, I have skills to transfer just about any industry, depending on, which area I work in. So I'm going to take advantage, and I'm going to see a lot of different industries. I don't feel like I have to, blaze a trail at one organization. I can grow by making moves. And as long as I think the skills continue to increase, I think it's a good thing for all of us. David?
Yeah, and just flip that actually, again, on the autonomy piece, providing the services for the digital nomad, for the new generation coming through. You're not going to be able to do it without autonomy, whether that's an element of the blockchain technology. IT organizations, I read the other day in the UK, IT organizations are already saying everything is moving so fast at the moment that if you're not including autonomy or automation in your IT environment, then you're going to fall behind, because as a human, you just cannot keep up with it. Cyber attacks, however we're looking to secure the user, you need that autonomy on that side as well. So actually, that fast moving nature, Jason, will benefit the people providing the service to the employees as well.
What's next, guys? And David, you and I talked. I know there were some insights you had from this report that you wanted to drill down. Are there other surveys in the works? What do you think's next for Ivanti?
I do. Well, from an Ivanti point of view, we talk about manage, we talk about automate, and we talk about prioritize. 3 areas that will help any fast-moving organization provide the, let's just say, the IT services to their employees, wherever that employee may be. That's what we as Ivanti always want to stay one step ahead of. How can we ensure that organizations are able to provide that service? We talked visibility, we've talked management, and we've talked security. Those 3 things together will move so fast that we've got to allow organizations to stay one step ahead. And autonomy is a fair place to back, because we need to move quick.
Jeff, any?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with David. Look, the ball is constantly moving, right? And we're doing everything we can to, work with our customers. And we have 45,000 customers around the world, to constantly evaluate this ever-changing requirement within the IT organizations to enable the everywhere workplace, to enable the secure and protection against cyber terror and so on, and the autonomy, right? And enable tons and tons of flexibility for IT departments to get the best possible skills. Because look, one of the last sustainable competitive advantage for any company in the world right now is your talent. It just is, right? Getting the right people in the seat at the right time. And even if you only have them for a year or 2, you'll take it, right? And providing, again, the best possible digital experience, we see as another compelling competitive advantage. And that maybe can increase your average tenure over time if people love the experience of working inside your organization from a digital perspective. So all those things, 3 things together, right? We're very bullish about the future, and we're very excited to help enable this evolution and this revolution from the workforce. I think we consider ourselves at the forefront of the everywhere workplace.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree. And if the report's any indication, and for everyone, you can see scrolling across the bottom of the screen where you can download the report. For those who are just listening, the Everywhere Workplace Report can be downloaded from Ivanti. That's ivanti.com/report. Just need a name and an email, and you'll get the report. So if we'd love to guys have you back. I mean, this is obviously this is an ongoing conversation. If we're having this conversation, hopefully before then, but let's say it's 12 months from now, it's in the spring of 2022 or 2023. Time flies. What are we going to be talking about? Where do you think this everywhere workplace is? What's it going to look like? Where, is it going to be a big improvement, or going to go into your crystal ball here? So
yeah, I'll go first, and then David certainly jump in. Look, one of the things we're most excited about, Ira, is the ability to put some business intelligence and some artificial intelligence into the solutions. Imagine this. Imagine you've onboarded with a company and you brought 4 devices with you. One's a pad, mobile, laptop, maybe something else, maybe a watch, right? That you're going to have on the network. And imagine that the experience is so seamless that you have all those devices onboarded within 20 minutes, right? And all credentialed and so on. Now, imagine, multiply that out by the number of employees around the world, and imagine that an IT department is able to, on a every night basis, use artificial intelligence to track the latest threats or security challenges, and automatically, without having you do anything to your device, automatically create the most secure security standards on the device, patch essentially the device, and manage against known security threats, looking for specific configuration holes in every device that the bad actors are taking advantage of. Again, without having the user do anything, right? And on a night-to-night basis, making sure that your entire network, every device, whether we have over 40 million devices under management with our software, and it's growing, I want to say exponentially, not quite, but it's growing quickly. And imagine if you could do that and get a report back on, here's the latest potential threats we need to take advantage of on a nightly basis. That's something that would take weeks, if not months, conventionally. We're working on a platform we call Ivanti Neurons to do exactly that. And we're at the forefront of bringing in all that automation and AI and bot technology so that our IT departments around the world can manage in the, in quite frankly, the most dangerous cyber terror, cyber criminal environment we've ever been in. That's the future.
And I'll come to you, David, to get your comment on that. But immediately when you said that, Jeff, about the onboarding in 20 minutes or so, my thought was prior to that, 47 million people quit their jobs in the last 12 months. Now, not all of those ended up with a new job, but that great resignation means that there's a constant turnstile going on. So there's a lot of cutting access, getting them off your network, and also onboarding all the new ones. And HR and IT have been traditionally pretty slow at doing that. In fact, some people were hired, but they couldn't actually start their jobs because they didn't have all the criteria. All the protocols weren't met. They didn't have the assets. They didn't have, some don't even get their email address in that short of time. So to be able to speed that up is absolutely necessary. For sure. David.
Yeah, there's not a huge amount to add from what Jeff said there. Really comprehensive. To your point, yes, we're going to onboard employees before they know they've been employed, right? And that's part of the employee experience around devices. I think I'd like to say, Ira will be back in 12 months' time. The platform's there. It's going to challenge your never normal. That's I think what I think at this point, that you're never normal. Should it ever be normal? Probably not. But we're gonna challenge that never normal and make sure employees get the right level of experience. But again, IT professionals are going to be able to have sleepful nights as the report generates and be on top of everything every day.
Hey, we're getting pretty close to the end here. I just want to put this up one more time for everyone, and then we'll get some final words. Here is this is the cover of the report, the Everywhere Workplace Report. You can get that at ivanti.com/report. You get your download there. Highly recommend it. And it really is sort of I won't say the Bible yet, but it's certainly a great resource. A lot of insights there, and certainly a lot of advice and warnings for companies that are. This has to be part of that conversation. Should we bring people back to work? What does it look like in recruitment? Where do we recruit? Hey, great opportunity now. We can recruit anywhere in the world. What's the consideration for security, for IT? And it's not just looking at your IT department and go, how quickly can we get this person on to Malaysia? A lot of other considerations there. So, Jeff, final words.
Well, first of all, Ira, Jason, thanks for having David and I. We truly enjoyed it. And we do think this study is important for every organization to absorb and to think and interpret for their environments and their workforces what they need to do. Look, it's going to continue to change. It's going to continue to be, as I said, a moving target that we all have to keep up with. And I think that the interesting evolution is not only in the workforce kind of starting to get the leverage to demand how they want to work and the experience they want to have, but also that the whole technology aspect of the world is now, front and center for CEOs. And if it wasn't before, it certainly is now. You're going to have to pay attention to what it is that draws the best talent, keeps your networks the most secure, and creates the most productivity. So it's an exciting time from where we sit. We feel like Ivanti's at the right place at the right time, and we've got a ton of proof points on how to assist all of our customers out there around the world. And again, the Everywhere Workplace is the new reality. I'll just leave it with that.
David, any additional?
Not a huge amount to add there on top of what Jeff said. It is all about the Everywhere Workplace, and the report really eye-opening. We live it every day, but still go in there, take a look. It really is. It shows where employees want to be.
And any other assets or any other information that they want, they can reach out to you, or they can go to Ivanti, Ivanti.com. And it's a robust, very interesting website, but you can also get the report down there. So, and both of you guys are on LinkedIn. So if people want to connect or get some information that way. Correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I can't thank you enough. One is for having the opportunity to participate with this, to be part of the rollout, to be, one is be exposed to it early, but be able to share the message, because and I love the title Everywhere Workplace. The other thing, and I forgot to mention this, the other, and I think this sums up what Everywhere Workplace is. It's a workplace without borders. I know that was part of the theme, and again, I think that captures the essence of this, and it's going to affect recruitment, retention, diversity, inclusion, compensation. All those things need to be worked out. We got a lot of work ahead. Appreciate everything you guys are doing. Thank you for allowing me to be part of it. Thanks for taking time out and being with us today.
It's been a pleasure, Ira, Jason. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
All right. Take care.
Cheers.
Jason, we say it every week. It goes amazingly fast. What a rich, robust conversation. So many insights. Even though I've been studying this, reading it, had the opportunity to work with David a week ago. Amazing. So much new information. Even came out today. There's the new insights. So I hope all our listeners enjoyed it. And hopefully we didn't disappoint in the fascinating, terrifying category. I'm just going to show this one more time. This is the report, Everywhere Workplace Report. You can see scrolling across the bottom, or if you're just listening, Ivanti, ivanti.com/report. Jason, what was your biggest takeaway?
Just in general. So first, to our listeners, absolutely go download this report. We promise you it's absolutely worth it. You heard from Jeff and David, the insights that they brought. Read the report yourself. It's about 20 some pages long, but you could get through it probably in about a 10 to 15 minute read. It's absolutely worth it, the insights in there. I think for me, even though I work in technology, one of the last things I've thought about in terms of this flexibility of people working from home is the increased dangers and threats and risks from using personal devices more for work or being more on personal networks. And as David put it, he called them bad actors. There are so many more bad actors out there that are getting so much better at the phishing schemes and the different entry points of being able to figure out how to get into your home network, how to get onto your mobile phone, that part of the employee experience is technology. And that is often a piece that we just think, oh, I've got my phone, I can do stuff from work, and you don't think anything of it. But there's so many risks and threats there that if you don't have someone on your side like Ivanti that's helping keep you safe, all it takes is one bad actor to find that small crack in the foundation, and then your whole organization can be compromised. That was what I really took away.
And even a toaster, even an IoT, a smart toaster, all these smart devices, people walking through the front door. We didn't even talk about, we're old school. We're talking about laptops and tablets. What about a watch? What about your Apple Watch? What about your Fitbit? All IoT devices that are logging onto the corporate network or expose a risk, potentially through that. So fascinating. We barely scrape the surface as we usually do with these interviews, but we really want to thank David and Jeff for being part of this. And please, hopefully you're going to join us again. We're live every Wednesday. Geeks Geezers Googlization. We're on the podcasts are available on almost every podcast platform, Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeart, Stitcher, SoundCloud, you name it, we're there. And this will be up there as well. So I really appreciate it. And hopefully that everyone will subscribe. Jason, we got to sign off.
That's right. Absolutely. I'm Jason Cochran, Googlization Nation. Thank you so much for being with us today and tuning in. If you haven't already subscribed on your favorite podcast platform, please do so. And we'd also love it if you drop us a review.
And I'm Ira Wolf. Thank you for being part of Googlization Nation. And until next time, don't let the shift hit your plans.